thanks for joining us. The potential endorsement comes just hours after a shockingly civil Republican debate. The candidates took a break from attacking each other and focused more on going after the issues.
Frontrunner Donald Trump was on the defensive, this time defending his policy ideas instead of the size of his hands. Major Garrett has all the highlights from Palm Beach.
Major Garrett is with us from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. Major, any moment now, the news of the day is that former Republican candidate Ben Carson will endorse Donald Trump. So how much weight, if any, does a Carson endorsement carry?
Immediately, probably not very much. The Trump campaign concedes that, but they do see Ben Carson as helpful in the long run in two respects. Donald Trump gets a lot of criticism, especially for Ted Cruz, that he's an inauthentic or newly converted conservative. What the Trump campaign hopes is Ben Carson's endorsement, and if he plays a role visibly in the campaign, will enhance Trump's credibility on conservative issues generally and specifically social conservative issues. The Trump campaign also has an expectation that with Ben Carson at its side, it can have a more sustained conversation with African-American voters, especially African-American conservatives, for whom Ben Carson has an open and lively conversation and a good deal of support. So in that sense, the Trump campaign believes Carson adds, in a larger long-term sense, not necessarily for Florida or Ohio or Illinois or Missouri come Tuesday, though they'll take Carson's support. And as often is the case in this late stage of a campaign, you have to think about endorsements not so much as addition rather, but subtracting from somebody else. I talked to the Ted Cruz campaign last night. They were disappointed. They would have preferred very much to have Carson on their side, reinforcing their conservative credentials, reinforcing the Cruz campaign on social conservative issues. They don't have that now. So Trump gains a little, but he also takes from Cruz because Carson's now on his side and not with Cruz. I think that's another way to look at this endorsement.
So, Major, can we talk a little bit about last night's GOP debate, a much calmer, much more genteel exercise, if you will. You spoke to Donald Trump right after the event. Let's listen to that, and then we can talk about it.
How did it feel differently tonight, and why do you think it was different?
I thought it was very civil. I thought it was an elegant debate, very substantive, and I felt very good about the debate. I think we did well, but it was very different from the shouting matches and which has.
What does that tell you about Ted Cruz's and Marco Rubio's strategy?
Well, I think the strategy is fine. I think we needed that. I think, frankly, the Republican Party needed a debate just like that.
Why?
It's been, well, because we were very, very much on issue tonight and less on fighting.
You often tell me, though, you like a good fight.
I do like a good fight. Frankly, the others are probably more exciting, and they're probably more fun, and they're probably more fun for the audience. But I think it was time that we had a debate like this.
Yeah, the thing about a good fight is sometimes fireworks gets you a lot of media attention. Certainly Donald Trump has benefited from that. But who do you think overall benefited the most from this type of debate?
Well, look, when you're the front runner and nobody lays a glove on you and you can protect your lead, you win in any debate scenario. That's true in a primary campaign. It's true in a general election. And so from that perspective, you have to say that Donald Trump didn't do anything to harm his campaign and probably didn't suffer any particular gaffe last night, except that he lacked a substantive approach on a lot of these issues, something that Cruz and Rubio took pains to point out. But if that was something that was going to deflate the Donald Trump balloon, it would have happened by now, one would have to assume. So in that sense, Trump probably emerges as a winner because he held his lead. He protected what he had going in. Now, Trump said something I think is very important because all of these candidates saw what the grassroots Republican reaction was to the last two debates. It showed up in focus groups. It showed up in interviews that reporters did afterwards. Regular base Republican voters were repulsed by the past two debates. They thought they were far too noisy, far too strident, and that they were doing harm collectively to the Republican brand and the Republican message. Notwithstanding what Donald Trump represents or anyone else, just the entire cacophonous circus of it all really drove Republican base voters to distraction. What you saw last night was four candidates who heard that and found strategic reasons to stay on their message, not clash with each other, and try to tease out issues that they thought worked to their advantage, but in the main, not attack one another, not say anyone on that stage was unfit to be the nominee or the president, because ultimately all four of them know whoever emerges is going to have to take on the Democrats in the general election, and if they're being harmed by their fellow Republicans, that weakens the party and weakens the process from their perspective.
Major, let's talk Senator Marco Rubio. Last night, he showed once again a very strong knowledge of the issues, but is that going to translate to votes in Florida?
Well, talking to those close to the Rubio campaign last night after the debate, they were extremely pleased, called this a reset. Essentially, Marco Rubio reminding people who were supportive of him originally why they were drawn to him and his message. He talked about the 21st century challenges repeatedly. That's part and parcel of Marco Rubio's approach to this presidential campaign, that yes, he's young, but he has a particularly keen insight, he says, into the economic, domestic policy, and foreign policy challenges presented to the country in the 21st century, and he was exactly back to that frame of reference. No more attacks about Donald Trump, no more calling him a con artist, no more insulting him either personally or on policy. Everything was back to the original Marco Rubio. What's worth remembering, though, is that original Marco Rubio was mildly successful, but not wildly successful. Didn't win anywhere, didn't come anywhere close to winning in any of the primaries or caucuses. So, yes, he's back to where he once was. That had its own ceiling as far as political support. It reset his campaign. It regained some respect and some dignity here in Florida. But his advisors know he's trailing Donald Trump, and he's going to have to make up a lot of ground in a very short period of time. And if it's possible for him to win, meaning Rubio, it will be by the narrowest of margins. Last night I talked to Governor John Kasich of Ohio. He guaranteed a victory in Ohio. I did not have a chance to talk to Marco Rubio after the debate, but I guarantee you he could not make such an assurance.
Major Garrett in Palm Beach, Florida. Thanks a lot, Major.
Sure.